I heard you were, you're gonna start farming.
Last meeting.
What?
I've been faking it for a while.
Yeah, I know. They can tell you make it.
That's the plan.
Oh, boy.
Rain for the next 3 days or 4, eh?
Was it? I only thought today.
It's dry.
It is dry.
Oh, yeah.
But it's crazy.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at Lori. Thank you. We always begin our meetings with our land acknowledgement. The municipality Tweed recognizes that our work takes place on traditional Indigenous territories, including the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. We recognize and respect the history, languages, and cultures of the First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all Indigenous peoples whose presence continues to enrich our communities. Miigwech. Could I have a move and a seconder for the approval of the budget meeting today? Thank you, Councillor Valiquette. Thank you, Councillor Palmetier. Any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, be it resolved that the agenda for the October 29th, 2024 budget meeting be approved as presented. All in favor? Thank you. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Moving on. Okay, Gloria, I guess you have a number of presentations that, well, videos that you're going to share with everyone. But before, okay, I have some comments. Should I make them after the videos?
So that is up to you. The videos are a good, very brief understanding of how budgets and what municipalities need to consider when they are budgeting. So if you want to wait until after that, you can.
I'll wait. I'll wait.
Okay.
We'll proceed and then I wait.
So we're going to start off with, sorry, just making sure this is set up here. And share my screen for the public. We're going to start off with a quick video, just less than 4 minutes, on how municipal budgeting works.
Okay, I would like to help you understand how your municipality develops its budget. We always hear about them, and often this can feel like another language altogether. Before we get started, there's important information you should know. Ontario municipalities, like the municipality of MFOA, receive approximately 9% of all taxes collected, but are responsible for over 50% of the infrastructure. Let's start by looking at what the word budget means. Well, simply put, it's a planned, itemized summary of money that is coming into the municipality and how that money is spent for a specific period of time. It's very important to note that provincial government legislation in Ontario states money coming in equals money going out, also known as revenue equals expenditures or a balanced budget. The municipality of MFOA provides more than 60 services to the citizens of the municipality, so municipal council and administration always have to make difficult decisions to ensure this balancing takes place. There are two main components of the budget when looking at the money going out side of the scale. Operating pays for all the day-to-day activities of the corporation. This includes items such as salaries and wages, utilities, supplies, fuel, and insurance, just to name a few. The capital budget pays for all the new big investments or the rehabilitation of current assets under the municipality's control. So let's focus on how the municipality collects to pay for all these services. For every dollar that comes into the municipality, 64 cents comes from property taxes, 21 cents from grants and subsidies, and 15 cents from user fees and other sources. So, now we've learned what a budget is, how municipalities collect money, and how they spend it. Now let's take a look at how these pieces work together. Money comes in through property taxes, grants and subsidies, and user fees. The money collected is required for both the operating and capital budget. We've already talked about the operating budget, including day-to-day expenses, but it also includes money for funding capital budgets. The capital budget pays for all the new big investments or the rehabilitation of current assets under the municipality's control. This connection is made through three methods. The capital levy method reflects a pay-as-you-go approach. The reserve fund method, which reflects a planned save now, acquire, or use later approach, and the debt payment approach. Okay, so let's recap. 1. A budget is a plan for money coming in and money going out. There are two building blocks to the municipality's budget: operating and capital. 2. The operating budget is like you're paying your house bills to keep the lights on. Just like in a normal household, our bills go up with inflation. 3. The capital budget is like your major outlays: vehicles, house, renovations, etc. 4. Money comes in from three sources: property tax levy, user fees, and grants and subsidies. 5. Money coming in is used to deliver over 60 services to municipality residents. 6. Municipal council and administration, with the input of the public, decide how to best balance the municipal budget guided by provincial legislation. And that is how your municipality develops its budget.
And so we're just going to watch one quick video now on asset management planning. So this will focus on the additional items that council needs to consider in capital.
Municipalities take pride in providing and maintaining the many services citizens depend on every day, like transportation, clean drinking water, recreation, garbage collection, and recycling. For instance, the municipality of MFOA has approximately $20 billion in municipal infrastructure assets that are critical to delivering these services. These include roads, bridges, sewer and water systems, recreation facilities, and parks. The municipality of MFOA is similar to many municipalities. They're facing challenges because of aging infrastructure. Many of their assets are reaching the end of their life cycle, and there's a need for new infrastructure to service growth. This is where asset management planning comes in. Asset management planning is the process used to help make the best possible decisions regarding the building, operating, maintaining, renewing, replacing, and disposing of infrastructure assets. Simply put, it's all about making the right decision at the right time for the right amount. Municipalities focus on three fundamental goals: providing sustainable services to residents, optimizing municipal infrastructure asset value while minimizing lifecycle costs, and managing risks to service delivery. For example, the municipality of MFOA takes a proactive approach and initially developed a corporate asset management plan in 2014. In 2019, the municipality developed a new policy and updated its plan to meet the new provincial regulation requirements and improve management of all assets. The planning and policy development process provides a clear, detailed picture of our assets, needs, and priorities, which plays an important role in the development of the municipality's multi-year budget. An optimal amount of funding is required to manage current and future asset risks. The difference between the optimal amount and available budget is what we call the infrastructure gap. If the infrastructure gap increases, it will result in inaccessible assets or assets that are not in optimal use. So, we need to balance growth, catch up on overdue maintenance of existing assets, finance the replacement of old assets, and modernize our infrastructure to be better prepared for tomorrow's challenges, while striving to keep property taxes, water, and wastewater rates reasonable for residents. The municipality of MFOA's corporate-wide asset management plan is how they prioritize infrastructure needs to achieve the greatest benefit to the community and to ensure the municipality is a great place to live now and well into the future. For more information on asset management planning, visit MFOA's website.
Are you okay if I proceed? Okay. First of all, welcome to the first of our 2025 budget meetings. Today, we'll focus on 2025 capital requirements. What we discussed today and what we conclude does not mean that we will not revisit our decisions throughout this budgeting process. Our next meeting will focus on 2025 projected operating costs. And then there will be another meeting that will look at the budget in its entirety, followed by another to present the final 2025 budget. We may discern that along this journey, other meetings may be necessary. I want to revisit my mayor's comments from October 8th council meeting, since everybody probably didn't hear those. When we posted our 2025 municipal budget, some residents thought that was the approved budget. It's easy to understand why there was confusion, since we used the word proposed rather than draft, which definitely changes the context of what we are talking about. First and foremost, this is a draft budget, not an approved budget. Now, if I may, I would like to put the draft budget in the context of building a home. You sit down at the table and you talk about all the things that you would like to have when designing your home. A 2-car garage, a jacuzzi tub, hardwood floors, high-end cabinetry, finished basement, solar panels on the roof, backup generator, the list goes on. You then price out all those items and you soon come to the realization that you can't afford it all. So you adjust. We are doing the same with our municipal budget. We are laying the foundation for what is required for next year. We are being totally transparent with all of the departmental and community asks that make up our draft budget. To not do so would deny you the opportunity to see just how expensive it is to run your municipality. Think about it. We are the largest municipality in Hastings County with 6,100 residents. We have the most bridges with 52, more than Belleville. 800 lane kilometers of road, 100 less than Belleville. We maintain spectacular amenities, an arena, library, outdoor pool, splash pad, outdoor gym, beach volleyball court, frisbee golf, an accessible playground, ball diamonds, soccer pitches, boat launches, public beach, one of this country's last standing pavilions, amazing hamlet facilities, a volunteer fire department, public works depot with trucks, plows, graders, and other equipment, a waste and recycling site, a rec department with equipment required to maintain our parks and abandoned cemeteries. And then there are other services such as policing, by law enforcement, building inspection, Quinte conservation, Quinte waste, etc. And we do all this with 5.5 million of your tax dollars. When you look at what we have, what we need to service, what we need to support, and what we need to build, then I'm sure you can appreciate that there is not much wiggle room. So we are starting with a draft 47% increase based on our needs and lingering impacts of inflation. For example, in 2024, our OPP costs were $1,046,000. In 2025, our OPP costs are $1,284,000. That's an increase of $237,000, or a 23.7% increase from the previous year, or a representative tax increase for 2025 of 4.4. So before we even get started, we are looking at a 4.4 tax increase. Furthermore, this OPP fee represents 23.4% of our current budget. So you look at the 5.5 million, this represents 23.4% of that. That leaves us with what? 4,216,000 to address all the other needs I just talked about. What I've just described doesn't include any infrastructure costs, such as bridge replacements or repaving our roads. To date, all our provincial and funding requests have been denied, even though both governments have spent a combined $11 billion on large urban centers in Ontario. Recently, we have been encouraged to apply for the Provincial Housing Enabling Core Services Fund. We have used this opportunity to apply for funding to replace the Queensborough, Kinlan, and Rocky Altar bridges, as well as the resurfaced Flinton Road. That application was 800 pages in length and required a considerable amount of time to complete, drawing our resources from other very important activities. Governments fail to realize that small rural areas, unlike municipalities, large municipalities do not have dedicated personnel to complete these onerous and enormous applications. Now, we do receive other provincial funding. For example, there is the Ontario Critical Infrastructure Fund. In 2025, the province allocated $400 million to small, rural, and northern municipalities. In 2025, we will receive $339,000, which is $9,000 more than we received in 2024. However, in 2023, we received $381,000, which represented a loss of $51,000 in 2024, which accounted for a 1% tax increase. Now, in response to my request for assistance with our looming infrastructure costs, both Minister of Finance and Minister of Infrastructure sent individual responses noting that we can carry this OSIF funding forward for 3 years. They both failed to take into account that the amount in question does not even come close to covering the cost of a major infrastructure project, nor that we have other infrastructure needs throughout the year. Furthermore, they have encouraged the municipality to borrow the additional funds we require. The response from Minister Fraser, Federal Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities, to a similar letter requesting assistance, referenced their past contributions. However, he neglected to mention the federal government has turned their backs on small rural communities with no support since 2020. Programs where the province and the feds each kicked in a third are long gone. We are now required to cover 100% of all project costs. This is a killer when you are a small community. Also, I have not mentioned in those remarks earlier that we are also required to put, in 2024, $11 million aside a year for the next 15 to 20 years to cover our infrastructure deficit. And that is based on, I believe, the asset management plan from 2022, which means it has not taken into account all of the inflation that we occurred. Now, we have a new asset management plan coming forward, and we know that those costs are going to be significant. So that 11 million is probably going to be closer to around 13 million. This is what we're facing in your community because we have so much of an infrastructure that we need to update and maintain. So please bear in mind that we are the lowest taxed municipality with the highest operating costs due to our size. In 2024, the average property tax per household was Municipality of Tweed, $1,791. Next, Marmarin Lake, $2,243. Center Hastings, $2,858. And Sterling Rawdon, $2,931, with Bancroft topping at $3,332, almost double where we are at. We are committed to being open and transparent in this process. That being said, this is going to be another difficult year. Thank you. Okay, Gloria, over to you.
Okay, so just give me a second here to share my screen again.
Now, do we want everybody, I guess just a reminder when you have questions to make sure you put your mics on, okay?
Yes. In the binders, we're going to be going and starting in section 11 and looking at the asset management plan impact and for future capital needs and what should be set aside in reserves. As the mayor mentioned, we do have a significant amount facing us as to what needs to be set aside. In the first few pages, you'll see the detail broken down by years 1 through 10 for each type of buildings, equipment, and then broken down within them, each the department that it impacts. And then you'll also see there's a 30-year reserve contribution amount. So if we were to look at just the next 30 years of capital needs, it's a next column over on the second page of each summary. And then the total required reserve. So we do have some assets that have longer than 30 years before they would need to be rehabilitated. I then also provided you the estimated borrowing cost. So this is if we didn't save at all for any of our assets and assume no further inflationary impact at today's interest rates, So if you look at 11.1.4, you'll get the total. We would have to take $434 million of debt to pay for all of our assets. This includes all of our bridges, all of our roads, every vehicle, every building, absolutely everything. Which if we were able to do it from reserves of saying and saving in advance, it would have only cost us 252 million. So by taking debt for everything, you can see the interest cost to us is significant. And this is why we want to consider setting aside some reserves, some savings, as we can't do it all. We know that we're too far behind from where we would need to be able to save for everything. But this is the reason, and I wanted to point it out for the public that, I'm sorry, let me actually just get to that spot on screen so they can see here. Why it matters for us to actually set aside into reserves is the interest rate, if we did everything as debt, is too big. That's $181 million. We don't want to put that much into interest when we could be putting that into services. So we do want to attempt to try to set some reserves aside. We know that we can't afford to do all of it, which is why we have to take some sort of a balanced approach and determine which assets are our best candidates for actual debt funding. On pages 11.1 to 5 and 11.16 is where you're going to see the summary of it just by department. So if we were to raise reserves on a departmental basis, ignoring the fact whether it's a building or a vehicle or equipment or roads or bridges, this is what we would need to set aside. So 23 million for 2025, but that doesn't take into account what we right now have for consideration of 2025 projects, as well as the annual funding that we get from the OCIF, which the mayor explained. And we also get federal gas tax, now referred to as the Canada Community Building Fund, the CCBF. So we do get amounts every year for those. Between those two, it's about 700,000. So when you actually look at the bottom chart, that's after we've pulled out those annual revenues for the roads and bridges that we can use from those two grants, as well as the assets that were currently on the table for 2025. So after our 2025 assets, we are still looking at about 13 million needing to be set aside in reserves. We cannot afford that, and we recognize this. This is not financially feasible for us. So
Then what happens is then that you're not able to do it, so you're carrying it forward over to 2026. And then all of a sudden in 2026,
Yes.
you're having to deal with what you require for 2026 and then the shortfall that you didn't make up in 2025. And so it becomes a
Yes.
snowball, which rolling down the hill becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until what happens? You get to the point what?
So you get to the point where you'll have to purposely choose which projects will be debt, is really where our options are, or which assets maybe shouldn't be renewed. It's not a fun discussion, but it is something that might need to be considered.
You mean, for example, like there are certain, we've identified 7 bridges earlier that if we can't get certain funding for, we may have to close those bridges. So that would be
Yes.
take that debt off, well, that potential future debt
Yes.
off our book.
Yeah, because
But when you're in a situation like we are this year, where we have 3 bridges,
Yeah.
okay, that require immediate attention. And we don't have the money in reserves, it's obvious, because this is a major expense. We're going to have to borrow. And
yes,
so as we continue to go down that borrowing route, we pay a considerable amount of the existing tax dollar just to paying off the interest and
yes,
paying back the loan.
Yeah.
And so that even reduces further what we can spend with any given year. So these are some very extremely tough decisions because we don't have the money in the reserves, and it's going to be difficult to even put money into reserves.
yes.
So just want to set that out there. It's
Yeah, this is not a great situation. The one thing I would like the public to be aware that we are not alone. Most municipalities in Ontario and across this country are facing the same situation. But yes, it is a very difficult situation that we're in, that we would like to be able to save, to be able to not have to pay interest. But at the same time, we can't afford the saving. So there is going to need to be some strategic balancing decisions as to what can or cannot be done. Staff and managers are always looking at what efficiencies or better technologies are out there to maybe save us some costs or get us some extra life out of our assets to then spread that cost over a longer period of time. Most recent example, we have been looking at bridge replacement options that could be, 40% of what the current style might be now. So a prefab, I think metal bridge would be about 40% of a full engineered cement bridge. So we are looking at those options, which once we make decisions as to which bridges would qualify for that, we can update these numbers. But at this point, we have to work with like for like because we don't have a better information at this time.
I will also make reference, you're perfectly correct that we are not the only one facing this situation. This is to reference Marmor Lake, Sterling Rodden, are two municipalities that are in the same boat as us, even though their tax base is considerably higher than ours. And like Warden Mullen, Mayor Mullen had said, when we talked about a third and a third, and that would be great if the government would at least come back because it's only going to cost us a third as opposed to 100%. He said, Don, he says, we don't have our third anymore. Okay, they've used their reserves because they've had to pay 100% of the costs. So now when we do these projects, whatever we can raise in a particular taxation year that we can dedicate to that is a far cry from what we actually need for that particular project. So we are all incurring significant debt to be able to make these things happen, unless the governments come to the realization that they have to step forward and help us in this regard. And that doesn't seem to be anything on the horizon in that regard right now. Okay, so please continue.
So then, because we know we can't look at the full 13 million annual reserve transfer, I then tried to break it down into something possibly a little more manageable. And so that's what pages 11.2 are, where we're looking at just the specific projects that need to happen in the next 10 years. As asset management plan legislation requires that our long-term capital plans need to start at a 10-year consideration as to how we plan to fund them and what we plan to do with them. We tried to order it so that everything that in each year is right next to each other in the columns. And all of the 2025 ones we will be looking at in more detail when we actually get into which projects you would like to proceed with and how you would wish to fund them. When we're looking at this, the very last page of it is where you're going to see if we were to do reserves on just the 10-year only. Now, because we have so many bridges and water and sewer assets that require, and roads that require renewal, it's still annual reserve transfer of 11 million. That is still not feasible for us. So I started off with the proposed that anything that was 200,000 or less, so this would be on page 11.2.6. Anything that was 200,000 or less, we rounded it up to the nearest thousand. And if it was above the 200,000, we did it at 50% and rounded it as well, except for roads and bridges, as those dollar amounts are outside of our ability to manage. So I put in a flat rate of 300,000 each. So that would be a proposal of 2.4 million going into reserves just to fund the next so many years of capital assets. Keeping in mind that of this, 1.7 million is funded from taxes. The rest of it is water and sewer and funded only by the water and sewer users. This is a $1.3 million increase from what 2024's transfer to reserves were for these future capital projects. So that is quite a large increase. So that's why I have the second set of calculations there where it's looking at just the next 5 years of capital, which is this section here.
But still, what you're proposing is not doable. because of the increase in taxes that that represents.
Yeah,
So we're gonna have to scale that back. One thing I noticed is that we don't have Kinlan Bridge in 2025. You moved it to 2026. Now,
yeah. When I had originally drafted this, we thought about doing 2 bridges next year and one the year after. But I hadn't updated this spreadsheet from when we decided that we needed to proceed with doing all 3 of them in 2025 to meet the necessary needs of those residents.
and I think what's important for the public to realize is the reason why those bridges are such a priority right now, the tonnage has been reduced to 3 ton. And which means ambulances can't go across, fire trucks cannot go across, and neither can school buses. And so, nor large farm equipment. And so farmers are being restricted from accessing fields, and people are not getting the services they need in regards to critical situations such as fire or health. So they are critical. Okay, when we have situations like that. And so we're going to have to do everything that we can to try and figure out how we're going to get those bridges done. Now, as we've mentioned, we have put forth a request to the province under their Housing Enabling Core Services Fund. And hopefully we'll get some response from that. But regardless, I know they're not going to fund the whole amount because they've not funded anything so far for us. Hopefully they'll give us something, and then we'll have to find where we're going to get the resources to do the others. My only concern too is they always say that it's good to get these applications in now so that you know you're going to get a good deal. You get a better deal than if you come later on in the year when everybody's already got their applications in, and then you're the last one on the chart, and then you might not even get a quote. So we are going to face that. Have they given us any indication when they're making a decision on any of this funding?
So they had indicated to us in the training seminars that they will be announcing both this one and the Housing Enabling Water one in early 2025. So I don't know if that means January, February, or March.
No, probably just before an election. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so if we looked at the 5 years only, it would be 1.5 million. As was mentioned, that's still not very feasible. The tax portion of that would be 1,168,000, as the water and sewer again is only funded from their user fees, which is still an increase of 772,000 from last year's transfer to reserves. That was tax funded. So what I would need to know is, do we want to then look at lower ones, except for certain ones where we know we need to put an order in, such as fire? We have to order a fire pumper now if we want to see it in 3 years, and we know the prices have gone up ridiculously and we need to put aside some. So looking at that, then which reserves are we willing to maybe not save on, while other ones we feel are important? Because we also have some waste work that we got our extended ECA, but there are pieces of it with the Hunt Road closure that we do have to have done by 26. And sorry, land acquisition of the water rights is by end of 2025. 26 is the start of the plan, and 27 is the completion of that closure. So that's another one that we want to also keep in mind. We probably don't want to reduce that reserve transfer too much.
And the bag tag fund, was that typically what we would have used to?
Yeah, so that's what we use for that. We do have amounts that go in there every year to repay back our reserve fund loans. So a portion of that reserve transfer can be those amounts that we're setting aside to pay for repaying those loans. But we do want to make sure we don't reduce that too much, because we do have those legislated requirements for closure in the coming years.
Okay.
So I guess if I knew which sections do we feel we could probably reduce down some, then I can provide you maybe a more.
How much do we
logical.
currently have in the reserve for the fire truck?
Sorry, 1 second. I have fire truck. We have right now about 200,000. So if we set aside 270,000 each year, by the, for 25, and then for 26, that'll get us to 740,000. And you're still going to need another year or two worth to be able to fund, if we can lock in a rate. Because they've gone up since the last time we.
Yes, please go ahead.
A question on the
fire truck, at time of order, what do we require for payment?
Depending on the company, but sometimes it's 10 to 15% kind of thing, 20%, depending on the manufacturer of the.
Yeah.
There is some different options there too with the talking with the different ones that if we can get, because most of them are gonna be American, the trucks or whatever. And if there's financing thing, whatever, we might go look at that, there's different.
Your
options
microphone
on
Sorry.
the financing on there's different financing options too that they do provide through some of the companies through the Canoe Group that's who I went and looked at just to get some moderate pricing on it. And they do have there's an option of financing up to 10 years now on a fire truck. There is some places that do that. So I know it's an expensive option, but it is another option that could be provided too. But yeah, like I said, there's many different, it's the output of that's going to be, you're looking at, a 3-year program on that. And I'm not sure really what, until we get actual physical count, because I haven't
Are you
been in.
locked in at the price when you put
So
in?
that's the thing is, some of them do, some of them don't. The one I'm looking at right now they will lock a price in on the truck. So
No, and you mentioned that most of these are US based companies,
Yeah.
and that the Canadian dollar is tanked.
yeah,
So that means
everything comes from them down through the mirror. So everything comes through them, the pump, the materials. The one option that we do have is purchasing a truck in Canada, which would save us probably, he's thinking in the ballpark about $40,000. If we can put it, it kind of sounds crazy that they would buy it from a place out west or whatever, would buy the truck and then drop ship it. It'll never go to Canada. It'll automatically go to the factory instead of them purchasing the truck out of the States. The truck's built in the States. It's kind of crazy, but we can still use our Canadian dollar, which would probably save us somewhere in the ballpark of about 40,000. You figure to buy it in Canada. So that's another option of us purchasing the truck from Canada, the cabin chassis, which you're looking, it's, going to be over $200,000 for a cabin chassis for the truck, but that would save us the exchange on doing it. It doesn't make sense when it's built in the States and whatever, but he said that is another option that would save us some money going forward, is buying the truck in Canada, drop shipping it to the factory in Florida or wherever the heck it is. It's crazy. Yeah. And like I said, but everything comes, most of the pumps, a lot of the linear scales and stuff all comes from the States. Even if it comes from Canada, it's coming from the States. If it's built here, they're still shipping the pumps in from the States, shipping in the cabin chassis basically is in the States. Like I said, all the materials, the equipment for the doors to a lot of the electrical and stuff and the pump panels and the governor controllers and all that stuff come from the States. So
Did you have any more questions? Sorry.
No, that's just kind of on what we were talking about, just sitting here thinking on the different things. The ECA requirements, those requirements come to us from the provincial government. They should pay for it.
That is correct. Yeah.
That's kind of where I see this budget right now. Anything that they push towards us, and then they won't help us, then if you require it, why aren't you on board with us? Just like the policing. Because they brag to everybody else about how good they are and how well the police, the OPP are treated, and they deserve it. But then we're the ones that are doing that, not them. So.
Whether in regards to policing, there is a huge outcry by all of the mayors who engage OPP services. I mean, even Quinte West engages OPP. So it's not just small rural communities. There are larger urban centers that also have OPP. And people are extremely upset. Mayors are extremely upset. There's another, we've had a lot of different communities support the resolution put forward by Councillor Valley-Kett on the province repatriating. And now I see Lori was telling me there's another resolution coming from the mayor of Wasaga Beach, who's been extremely vocal about this as well. about, we just can't afford these costs are astronomical right now when we consider everything else. And I think people think also that inflation is going down, but it's not going down for the kinds of things that we have to buy. In fact, it's still really high, and that straps us even more. Going to turn it over to you. You were going to say something, Councillor?
Well, your worship, I don't want to get in trouble, but I've said many times that we need to fight this thing together. All 444 municipalities got to stop right now. We're all doing budgets. We need to get on board with one another. We need the support of AMO. If AMO can't help us, maybe we should get rid of them. You know, that's, I think they've done a lot of good work over the years, but we need them right now more than anything. We need to work together to get the government to understand that you just can't continue with these ideas, the tunnel in Toronto. What's that gonna cost the taxpayers that are working farms in Hastings County? What about the parking lot up at the Science Center? If they don't get the parking lot done, there's a $2 million fine or penalty every year. We pay that as well. All of these costs, all of these, like we've talked, common sense, that the third, why did they stop this thing? Why are we, you know, a system that worked? We always had money in reserves. We always had money ready to do projects. We didn't have a problem. Now we can't even buy a bag of cat food. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. It's just, but we need to stop right now. All the municipalities in Ontario need to fight this thing together, and whatever it takes, we got to do it.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Valiquette.
Through the mayor to the fire chief. So, and I'm just kind of spitballing, but are there any other efficiencies that, so right now we obviously share you and we share the fire training officer.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other efficiencies that you see might be advantageous for us to pursue that might free up some of your other budget? Like, part of me was thinking we're blended at the administrative level, but we're not at the operational level. Is there an opportunity to do something unique or different? And I'm just throwing ideas out, but like part of me was thinking, oh, if there was a fire hall that was halfway in between, which looks good on paper, but doesn't make sense for people to go here to get a fire truck to drive back, or from Sterling to go somewhere and drive a fire. So I was just like, and you may do these things already, but what about like a staged response? And I don't know if that even saves us money, but like a staged response, depending on what you're responding to. I'm not intimate with what you do, so I'm just kind of throwing out some ideas.
Yeah, through the mayor, councillor. So we do have our mutual aid association. We use a lot of, like, back and forth a lot. The unique situation we have here, we have one fire station for the municipality Tweed, which is the biggest municipality in Hastings County, which kind of makes it tough for a lot of the other ones have two stations that are spread out across us. We have a large area that we already do. So we do have automatic aid agreements. So like in our southern down Chisholm's, Moneymore, Marlbank area, we do already have agreements with Stone Mills that we use them to go do first response for stuff down there. They will fight fire for us. They'll do medical calls, pretty much anything we ask. So we have that set up, which saves us having another station down there right now and more manpower and more trucks. We have like a very small fleet basically for the size of our area right now. We're limited. That's what I'd say we run with two pumpers we have right now, and one of them pumpers is actually one of our tankers. So it makes it pretty tough for us to say, yeah, we can bypass and use that for something that goes wrong. Multiple calls that we've had in the past year, especially even at our downtown core here with Tweedsmuir and stuff like that. We needed 2 to 3 pumpers here. We've used pumpers from Center Hastings, brought them over to have extra pumpers, but we used both our pumpers were tied up. If we were to have a water main break or something like that, then we would have to call in some more mutual aid, but we didn't. Them trucks that we have are dedicated to different things. The 2 trucks we have for tankers, the one that we want to replace is our main pumper. That's our it's a 1050 pumper versus the 840 that's in the other one that only puts out, you know, we can run 3 hoses, or 5 hoses and stuff like that. In our area, and looking at our Madoc Township right now, Madoc is covering on the other side of Queensboro because of the bridge there. They're coming right into Queensboro for us and covering for now for a minimal fee for per call or sometimes we even switch services back and forth. We do something for them, kind of, we work together on that. But it's tying into our mutual aid, like, it's, we got to give like for like kind of thing. It's not, we can't depend on Center Hastings to give us trucks all the time over and over and over and over. Well, ours is, we don't have one that's, you know, up to snuff or whatever. And it makes it tough with our whole area, our geographic area, that it's so large. And with one station, it makes it tough for us to bring that in unless they were to ever go into some other kind of service that tried to pull it in. Like, I understand what you're saying, trying to do, we do that right now with our dispatching, is like, we have a first call, which was if we get a call right now in town or whatever, our first call would call in. Center Hastings would be sending trucks to us, or we have Belleville that would send trucks to us. Tynanega, we do it with them as well down in the Marbank area. Our mutual aid, we're very fortunate to have our mutual aid that we can do what we can with our mutual aid right now. Besides going any farther, that would have to be above and through the county type stuff that they ever decided to do something, which is something to, you know, look down the road at, but because it is getting to a point where
Well, this
these
is,
trucks are, yeah.
this is our third budget year looking at the fire truck, and we've always been putting it off and putting it off. And I think we get to the point where we have to bite the bullet. So I'm thinking, like, you know, we have to put in our order. I mean, for you to come back to us with what that cost is going to be. Do that soon, so that we can build this in. I think what we do is, like, you know, you say you have to commit the 10%.
Yeah.
So 10 or 15,
Yeah.
like, you know, whatever that is, we make sure that we have that money to do that. And then I don't know if we can continue to top up the reserve with the amount of money that's going to require us to be ready for when it's delivered, which means we may have to borrow. But the point is, we cannot jeopardize everyone in this community by not having the equipment necessary to respond to critical infrastructure failures such as fires when they're happening in people's homes. So at least it's a starting point for us, okay? So that's what I would like to see us do at this point. Are we okay with that? Just okay. With the fire truck for sure, okay. You don't have any, well, you do have other needs, I think I saw in here.
Yeah, just very, very little this year.
Very little this year,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, the other one is, of course, is the Public Works. That's huge. Now, I just want to go back to your breakdown here. For 2025. Sorry, it's all screwed up. Oh, here we go. So Ryan, there is the request for 800, and so we're saying that in order to do Flinton the way we would like to do it, it would cost us almost 1.7 million. Is that the total cost of that over 2 years?
To the mayor, that would be pretty close to it. Yep.
Wow, okay.
That being said, that's for our Everlife we've been using. I
Yeah.
know everyone seems to like it. It seems to be a good product,
Mhm.
but we can also look at tar and chip with a fog seal. That would save 20-30% too. So there is options.
Okay, thank you. And then, of course, the James Street, all of the ones associated with James Street, that is based on funding. So if we don't get
Yes.
the funding, we don't do it.
Yes, at
Okay.
this time, it's in there and be funding
Okay, so
supported
if we,
only.
you take those out, the big ones, I guess, are Rapids Road, what's required there?
To the mayor, that's going to be a lot of in-house work. We're basically we're gonna pulverize it ourselves. We're gonna add the gravel ourselves. We'll grade it. We just need someone to come in, do a quick tar and chip on a 600-meter section. It's completely blown out, but a lot of that's going to be in-house. We just need a contractor to come tar and chip it. So.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Yeah,
Okay,
Your Worship.
yes, please.
Which section in specific is that?
Through his worship to Councillor Palmetier, Fuller Road, about 200 meters, I believe, to the south, and then just up to Mariset, we'll do the apron, and it'll probably stop right there.
Okay, do we, like, the culverts down towards Crooks and keep getting worse? The I don't know. I don't have the descriptive word. I'm gonna call them humps in the road. So, but where those culverts are, is there any remediation that can be done there?
I'm not 100% sure where you mean. I believe you're talking just south of Crookston.
To the Trans-Canada Trail, kind of. There's about 4 culverts that cross there.
Yeah, there's a
And
couple
every
frost
one of
heaves.
them, but they're permanent now. They just get worse every year, and I didn't know if there's remediation that could take place just to, because it's gonna ruin the road too as people make impact with those spots.
Yeah, that's fair. We can look at some options. We could likely do all that in-house as well, but then we'd have to need again a company to come in, do the tar and chip over it to seal it, which would be, I think, fairly minimal if they're up doing the other section as well. So I can get some prices on that as well.
Okay, good, thank you. And so again, we have in here, these look like engineered bridges for the 3 bridges we're talking about. So what I would like us to do is to adjust that with the prefab bridges, okay? This is what we've gone to the province with, okay? So if we could come back here and adjust it with the prefab bridges, could you have any comment on any of that right now, Ryan?
To the mayor, that's exactly why it is those amounts. That's what we applied for funding for. And until we come up with a decision other than that, then we will get the pricing for the modular bridges. I have one for Queensborough. I believe I shared that before. It's just shy of 800,000.
Okay, well then let's adjust all of these to say that they might be around 800,000 right now, so that we can see what we're looking at.
So none of those bridges impacted your tax rate though, just so you're aware.
But that's because we're borrowing the money,
Yes.
but it does impact the tax rate. Then
Sorry,
when
it
you-
doesn't impact 2025's tax rate. It would impact the future ones after that.
That's right. Yes, so go ahead, Councilor Field.
Your worship. We can't keep borrowing money.
But Jim?
I
we have no
know,
choice.
we're in a hell of a spot. Sorry for,
Yeah.
but we can't keep doing that. We have put a burden on this municipality to try to keep up with things that are necessary to make things work. And there comes a point where you just can't do it.
I know.
And you know what? Like I said, 444 municipalities, if we have to shut this whole province down, shut her down.
But
We
Jim,
can't keep
I-
doing it. We
I
can't
agree.
keep doing it.
I agree with you.
There are
I think
people-
we all agree with you. But the point is, when we have people whose lives
I
could be in
know,
jeopardy, it's not on us that
So
we're gonna.
where's the government when the lives are in jeopardy?
Yeah, no, but
They
we,
just ignore us.
Yeah.
They ignore us.
I agree. I
We
agree.
can't keep doing this.
I know, I know. I think we all agree we can't keep doing this. I mean, last budget meeting, I made it like, we cannot, I made the point in 2024 that we cannot continue to borrow because every time we do, we strap future councils. But when it get to a point when people's lives are in jeopardy, or when farmers can't get to their fields and we're an agricultural community, we have to bite the bullet. But what we do is we make sure on our tax bill, when we put it on our tax bill, we show them that this is a cost as a result. It's a levy from the province. It's a provincial levy. We let people know. There's no way and I agree with you, it'd be nice if all of the mayors in this province would get together, but it's never going to happen. They wants to focus on what's important to them. I mean, the fact that, just example, okay, the lack of support that we got, like we got support for your motion on reintroducing the sticker fee, and
Yeah.
great motion. Not the support that we would have expected. Everybody could have supported that. And I think somebody's brought to my attention that even for the OPP one that Councillor Valiquette has done.
Yeah.
Not one municipality in Hastings County has supported that. So we're all impacted by these things, but everybody is so preoccupied with trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet with their own things that they're not even focusing on the big picture. And you're focusing on the big picture is what is necessary, but unfortunately we can't get the buy-in from everybody to do that. So then we're forced into a situation that we have critical needs that we have to meet. And we have used all of pretty much our reserves because there's been no support from government since 2021, that we have used our reserves and now we have to borrow. And unfortunately, we have no choice because I know people are going to say, well, I don't want to have to pay for that bridge. But you know what? Somebody doesn't want to have to pay for your road and somebody doesn't want to have to pay for this and somebody doesn't want to have to pay for that. But as a community, we are responsible for meeting the needs of everybody. I know exactly where you're going. I hate this debt thing because I think paying back debt and principal in 2024 accounted for almost 900,000 of our budget. 900,000 going to pay for projects that are gone. Now we're going to even increase that even more. So out of the 5.5 million, 900,000 goes to paying that back. Go
So,
ahead.
your worship, there's two prefab bridges.
Mhm.
For a small application, there's two
Yep.
bridges.
That's what we're gonna do. Prefab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we paid out in interest enough money to buy two bridges.
Oh, yeah, well, that was done before us. That was.
No, I know
yeah.
that, but I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's in a debt that you
Mhm.
carry and
Mhm,
carry. And you can't, like, it's not like having an income tax for a farmer. You can't write that off. It's a debt that you have to pay. You're toast.
Go ahead, Councillor. Carey.
Yeah, your worship on that, like nobody wants to be further in debt. I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
But there have been projects we've put off in the past. And if you look at 2018, when I got on council, a lot of these projects, we would have paid for the interest twice on the increase in the cost of that project.
Mhm.
Sometimes just taking the hit to get the project done, and it puts the burden on the people that are going to use it as well. Like that's kind of the trade-off. When you save the money, you're putting the burden on the people now for a project that's going to happen in the future. So the people now don't necessarily get to use what's going to be paid for. So it's kind of a trade-off, but as soon as, like, my opinion coming into this budget is it affects human lives, and
Yeah.
it kind of takes precedent.
Me too.
Things like the fire truck and these bridges.
Yeah, I
So
know.
it's just, it's not gonna be a fun time here, but we have to understand that
Mhm.
sometimes just getting the project done in the long run is the best thing to do.
Okay.
So your worship, maybe it's a thought that I shouldn't even put out there, but could we work with some of these fab companies to carry our debt? I wonder if they would have, I don't know if they'd have that financial stability to do that. If we, went for 10 years and paid the interest to them to,
They may.
instead of,
they may.
and I don't know, like we've looked at 4 and a bit % over so many years. I don't know if we could even do that. Like they might want 8%. That wouldn't make sense, but just a thought. I don't know.
That's right. And I mean, the other thing is, by the time this all comes into play next year, interest rates will have dropped considerably again. Okay, right now, we're still in the 4% range. The province will keep adjusting, and so hopefully our interest payments will be less and less as it goes on. But thank you very much for a good discussion on this, and so thank you. Is there anything else I mean, we're doing the best that we can with all of this. Okay, the road's grader. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just have a fundamental question on the whole capitals budget here. And it's not pertaining to any one department, but I'm gonna reference a line here. And I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how this is going. So.
Say what page you're on.
Okay, I'm gonna 10.2.1, for example. Line number 58,000, 58,000. I'm just using this as an example of one line I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around. Maybe I can get an explanation. So that line is marked DC background study, budget expense $40,000. Municipal user impact of $40,000. Now, if we travel back in time to 2024, that line is marked admin capital. 2024 budget was $90,000. 21,389 was used out of that budget, which leaves us with a balance of $68,610. So how do we have a $40,000 tax impact when we have a $68,000 balance?
But we don't have 68,000 left. That 90,000 in 2024 was covering the master recreation plan. It was covering the roads need study, the water needs study, the sewer needs study. that we're all needing to be updated to feed the development charge background study that would be for 2025. So there's still bills coming in. So that amount you're seeing for 2024 actual is as at a set date and time. There are bills coming in now and then are expected to be coming in through November and December that will bring us much closer to that 90,000, because I believe all of our tenders tendered out to about 87,000 between all of those various studies.
Okay, so we'll move on to the line just above it, furniture, 58,026. Again, another fundamental question. The budget was $2,000. Out of that $2,000, there's no money coming out of there. So in my mind, we still have $2,000, but we're having a user tax impact of another 2,000.
So last year it was, or 2024 wasn't a tax impact. That one, if we were to spend anything, was to come out of reserves. So we didn't actually raise anything for taxes for that. There have not been a need for furniture purchases. We like to keep a small amount in there in case a chair collapses, a desk collapses, and we can still be able to purchase something for the staff to replace that need. So far, we've been lucky to not need it. So that amount's actually still sitting on our reserves because we didn't need it yet. And hopefully we won't need it by the end of this year. And if we don't, then I was going to suggest that we pull that 2,000 from the reserves when we get to section 10.
Okay, you're getting into the detail right now. I want to deal with the
Well, we
big
need to
things.
understand the
No,
fundamentals.
I
when we get to this
want
point.
to get into the big things and then we move into the detail later. Like these are major ones right now that we're deciding whether we can or can't, which are huge when it comes from a debt perspective. So we'll go back to that. I want to go back to, okay, I was raising a question on the grader. Tell me about the grader.
To his worship, our grader currently is about 24 years old, our Volvo one. I think it's served us pretty good at this point. It's currently sitting at 16,500 hours, which is an astronomical amount for a reliable roads grader. Next year, it's expected to need about $75,000 in repair to keep it on the road grading. It's going to need about $48,000 in seals, a couple injectors, new tires. So at this point, I'm recommending it be replaced. Typical grader, you get about 15 good years out of, and we've gotten 24. So.
Okay, and so is this one of these ones that like it's on the lot and you get, or it's one of these ones that you order now and you get in another year?
To the mayor, we'd have to put something like this out to tender. I believe we'd be able to get it by the end of next year.
By the end of next year. So you're still looking at spending 75,000 next year on an old grader.
Pardon me?
You're still looking at spending 75,000 next year on an old grader?
Through the mayor, if we were to order it, we'd put it on the back burner a little bit. We'd limp it through. But if we were to keep this, we'd have to invest that money into it.
Okay. Any comments on the grader? Yes, please go ahead, Councillor Palmetier.
Through your worship, a couple years ago, we leased a grader or like did a rental, I guess. It was month to month. Do we have any figures on what that would be?
Through the mayor to Councillor Palmetier, we don't have any figures exactly, just a ballpark number. Usually it's $170, $180 an hour to rent one of these. We'll say a 10-hour day, $1,800 a day. We'll say we need it for 2-3 months, which is basically what our grader runs in a year, each one.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at, we'd be well over 100,000, I believe. So to me, 5 years, it's paying for itself, and we stretch this one out for 24 years.
Yes, Councillor Valiquette.
Through the mayor, so this old grader, obviously we would sell it. Is it worth much or anything to offset this?
Through the mayor to Councillor Valiquette. Previous experience, we had one similar at a place I was before. We got about 30,000 for this. So not a lot, but it's still something to offset that cost.
Okay, and I agree with Councillor Palmetier. The Hunt Road closure thing, let's just put that off.
Yeah, your worship, I was kind of getting at that at this point of the budget, I would cut them all out.
Yep.
And then they can face us.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. And then we'll go to them with our story. You haven't helped us with anything. Okay, so is there anything big there that we didn't talk about? I think we're okay. Now, if you would like, yes, please go ahead.
Just before we leave this, I'm just kind of curious. So of the three bridges, and I don't disagree that the bridges are important. But is there a way we would be able to not do them all at the same time? Like, would you be able, going from most critical to least? Would you be able to do one this year or two this year, and when the following year is it? Do we feel that all three of them need to be addressed because they're all that critical? If one creates a detour of 45 minutes for an emergency vehicle to get there, pretty critical. If one creates a detour of just a few minutes, significantly less critical.
Go ahead, Gloria, and then to Councillor Palmetier.
So we have been assessing the detour routes. Most of these bridges have detour routes that are in excess usually of 12 kilometers, which may not necessarily seem like a big deal, but those detour routes actually take them over bridges that are already at a 5-ton or 10-ton limit. 10-ton an ambulance can get through. Maybe our smallest fire truck might be able to, but nothing carrying water. So these are areas that do have very limited service. Like, I wouldn't be able to say any one of them would be any better or worse than the others, because they all have very long detour routes that also take them over bridges that can't necessarily handle the large vehicles either.
I think too, what I'd like to also point out, if we do these bridges, we're getting them done. And hopefully next year, we don't have a major infrastructure initiative that we have to deal with. I know we have some things to look at here, but hopefully, like, we'll be focusing on the fire truck or something at that point. Go ahead, Councillor Palmetier, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just had those feelings as well. I wondered if like Queensboro and like Queensboro is absolutely, there's no questions there. Like if we could do two, but yeah, it was kind of covered.
I would like to see us entertain doing three, because I do not want to be in a position where a fire truck does not have sufficient time to get to somebody's house or an ambulance, and then we are going to be held accountable. And that will be the case.
Your worship, it'd be really helpful, and sounds really silly of myself because I've been here for 6 years, but I get the names so mixed up. If we could just
Map.
keep a map somewhere
would agree.
handy in council chamber,
Right up
because we
on that
talk about
wall,
these all
right
the
over
time.
there.
And holy geez, you think you're in the right spot, and then the
Yeah.
public lets you know you're wrong,
Yeah.
so.
Yes, there's a wall right there. Let's make that happen. Good idea. Councillor Fleeler.
Your worship, we talked about transparency there. Well, we talk about it all the time. Excuse me. We invited 15 or 17 bridge builders here. We had two. Would it be possible, because the transparency's out there, would it be possible to go to one bridge builder and say we need 3 bridges? Would it be possible to go to a bridge builder and say we need 2? I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, what we do is we can put out the tender and say that we're looking, like, for a price on 3. It's up to us to decide if we want to accept the tender or not. Okay, and so I don't think it hurts, because you could get a volume discount, so to speak, and that's
I'm
what you're
thinking,
aiming at.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. We have to be creative here. I mean, we've got a lot that we're going to have to deal with, and we haven't even got into operating. I want to go back to Deputy Mayor now to walk us through again your concerns. So we're back on 10. We're section 10. Is that what you're looking at? 14, okay.
I was looking before.
Yeah,
Well, it was line 110, 58,000. I was just having trouble wrapping my head around.
okay, so where would you like us to go now?
Well, she explained it, but this is kind of where it's throwing people in a loop, I think. So what? 14.22. I mean, she's explained this, but for me, looking at this at home, I'm thinking, okay, we've got a $40,000 budget impact under that 58,000 line. But it looks to me like there's 68,000 left from last year, so why is the tax budgeting impacting the residents again? When to me, a surplus.
Right.
That's where I was
Okay.
wrapping my head around. And
Yeah, I think it's just a result of doing the budget this far,
Early.
Yeah,
this early in the year, right before year end has come up, right?
Yeah, and that's why the top of that column actually says actual as at September fifth.
yeah.
So
So
they're
we're
still missing 4 months. worth of
2/3.
bills.
But I mean, are we getting into the operational stuff here?
That's, he's referencing a capital line
Right,
that's in the details.
So I don't wanna
These
get in-
Pages I wasn't going to get into.
No,
until
not at all.
operating.
That's right.
It's- These numbers might all
Okay.
change once.
Right.
We figure.
but the
what
capital one was a legitimate.
Where I was going with it is, this could overall impact, I'm thinking, why do we need that impact on the taxpayer again for that capital item when we have a surplus sitting there from last year that hasn't been used? And that's where I was having trouble wrapping my head, and I've seen this in different places throughout this, even in capital. So I'm probably gonna be asking that same question again, right? So,
That's okay. You
You
can
know.
ask the question. That's fine. As you mentioned, Gloria, it does say until September. Okay, but is there anything else? I don't, because I don't want to get into this one. That's our next meeting, right? But anything that's capital that's reflected in this, is there anything else that you caught you?
that one was just an example,
Oh.
I'll bring it up.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we should go into the individual.
Yeah, so did you want to? Because I was hoping to get an idea of where you wanted the reserves to be reduced to for the transfers. But if you want to come back to it after we do the detail, then we can do that.
I don't know if we're going to be able to determine what's going to go into reserves until we know what we're going to have to commit capital wise, what we're going to have to commit operating wise, which will give us a total picture of what we're looking at. And then determine what we can put into reserves or what we're going to draw from reserves again.
For the next one, would you like me, when I bring forward the operating to set all the reserve transfers to 0?
I think at this point, go ahead.
What I would suggest to the mayor for something like that, you can set them to 0, but you could also put suggested beside it. So that we can determine where we can, I mean, a lot of this is gonna hinge on what our cost, our daily
right.
costs, what the mayor said. So you could set them to 0 and then have your suggestions beside it. So that we can determine where we can go and what we can't afford, what we can afford, because this is kind of, until we build this all together, we're not gonna know.
That's right. Yes, yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
With the reserves, your worship, should we be keeping the water and sewer in since they're covered by user fees?
Yes, that's,
There's
Okay.
no point in pulling them out if they're
Good
kind
point,
of accounted
good point.
for. And I guess waste as well, right? Or no, bag tags, or just that? Cause we don't wanna pull the ECA money at this point.
No. Gloria, did they ever give you any indication failure to comply?
So they can put an order on us that forces it regardless of what it costs and whether we have the money or not. I believe there can be fines, but I'm not sure what those look like. They usually try to work with you, but the fact that we've requested an extension, and then if we don't act on it, I don't know how they'll view that.
It would be a good way to make it political.
That, I just wish somebody from the ministry I want them to go to the site and explain to me. Cause it's fully treed, there's grass growing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
cannot tell, other than what people have recently thrown there, that it's a dump site.
So I liken it to, you're repairing a room in your house and you have beautiful carpet put down, but the floor underneath is rotting out. You have to remove that beautiful carpet to fix the floor and then have to put carpet back. So this is the same thing as we have to make sure that the garbage in there is contained to that one site and that it's not leaching out to the water sources nearby. And we will have to remove some vegetation to get in to do that. So it's similar to needing to repair a floor that, yes, you might have a beautiful, nice maintained carpet and you might not know the floor is bad, but if the floor is bad, then it's.
But with this
First of all,
remediation that they're requiring, they not
We're gonna
only
serve.
request you to take up the floor that might be rotting, but the whole floor to take a look at what's going
Okay.
under. Like, and so it's not like it's a spot thing or whatever. It's like, we talked about this before. Nature has reclaimed that area.
Yeah.
Reminds me of someone else that was looking at building something. I can't go into detail, but there used to be the marble plant on the other side of the river. Closed 70 some years ago or whatever. they still had to do a dust study on this side of the river, which was 20-some thousand dollars. And the trees in that area right now are probably 60, 70 feet tall. Nature has completely taken over the area. Like, some of this stuff is a little bit ridiculous. You do more damage
Uh,
by trying to
Company
address
goes
the issue.
bankrupt and that gets put back on
Yeah.
on the government or whomever, and it doesn't. They don't remediate the problem of that company that went bankrupt, that had issues with the property. That sometimes that's why they do, right?
Mhm.
It's because they had they had leachate or something like that. The province doesn't fix those.
No.
They just leave them. But they know that they've got us. So that's why they push us.
Yeah. Okay, so should we go to the individual items and then, like, and
Yeah, so,
where are we looking at now?
so we will be moving into section 10, starting with 10.2.1. And for simplicity's sake, we'll probably just start at the top and work our way down. The first one, before we get too far, as mentioned, because we haven't needed to use the furniture budget this year, and I'm hoping we probably won't, that I am suggesting that we add in reserve transfer for that 2,000 in here. And pulling it out of tax, because we didn't need the amount this year. So far.
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Gloria, just going back to this, because that 2,000 wasn't used last year, you're just saying transfer it back into another reserve for this year.
Well, because we didn't actually pull it out of the reserve, it's still in the reserve. So we would be able to have it to pull from the reserve in 2025.
If we need it.
Yeah.
So
Again, this
we
is
never-
one where
Okay,
the computer line and the furniture line are ones that are in there in case something dies on us, breaks on us, and we need to replace it, that we don't, sometimes it's, we can't continue operations without a computer. If one of our main computers dies. And so we need to be able to proceed with just getting one new computer or two new computers, which is why we put it into the budget. And then, it's there. And then if we don't need it and it was tax funded, it goes into the reserve to fund that same thing the next year. So that's why sometimes it's tax and sometimes it's reserve, because it's whether we needed it the year before or not.
Okay, can I just ask a follow-up?
oh, yeah.
So
go
if
ahead.
you sent, if you had $2,000 as a tax impact last year, which you didn't for that one. So if you only spent $1,000, are we only topping it back to 1,000? We're not funding the whole 2,000 again. Is that like?
Yeah, so then it would be 1,000 from reserves and 1,000 would come from taxes then that next year.
Okay.
That's typically how we handle these ones, where it's there just to cover a potential, where it's not, I don't know for sure that one of our computers is going to die or that one of our desks is going to fail. So we prepare for the potential. And then if we don't need it, it goes into the reserve and helps fund that potential the next time.
So you're saying we can remove that 2,000?
Well, it would be there, but it would be as shown here, you're gonna have a reserve fund revenue to show it.
But for
which then
user,
has no tax impact.
okay, that's what I'm asking. No, no
Yeah.
users, okay.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Your worship, Gloria, what was the DC background study?
So that's the development charge background study. So at the last budget meeting, so the scanner item in here, which is one we need to talk about, and the DC background study are all ones at the last budget meeting we were directed to include into this budget. So we've done all of the necessary needs studies for the roads, water, sewer, and the master rec plan we're working on to be able to feed a development charges background study. Once that's completed, we can start the process of the necessary advertising and coming up with a development charge bylaw, where then growth would be paying for the growth related capital costs of our municipality.
Okay,
That's good.
so this is in progress now then?
So I have been started drafting a RFP for it, but I can't release it until it's actually in an approved budget. But we're getting prepared so that as soon as we can release it out.
And then the washing machine, that's for you, for your Dear, okay.
Mhm.
That's what I was, so the total cost is 17,000. You said provincial funding and then grants application submitted. So you're looking for the whole thing to be funded?
Through the mayor. So we put in for a grant there. We're just waiting back to hear back from them right now. It is a $10 million grant that they give to all the fire departments. What they've told us is that they're going to basically give the 440 fire departments, each fire station's going to get basically that's about $8,000 to $10,000. We put in for more we actually put in for washer, dryer and everything for the thing. And then the next year, there's another 10 million and then the 10 million the next year after that, instead of doing it all. Give me a buzz for cancer prevention. We are supposed to be hearing something's been in for 60 days now. We thought they'd have it back to us by now. But yeah, just looking at purchasing the machine and put we're supposed to get $10,000 for a grant from, to go towards that 17,000.
So this really, there is no real draw on the tax base for this particular item.
7,000.
7,000, just a 7,000.
Okay. We already talked about the fire truck.
So just for clarification, this is actually representing the transfer to reserve that would be
Yeah.
required to help us get up to 875. I do know that that was based off of old numbers and the prices of the trucks have gone up substantially. We have 200,000 in the reserve. Did you want me to keep in here transfer for this piece or put it back to zero like you directed with the
I
other
put it
reserve
back
stuff
to
right now?
zero right now, but you're gonna have to show whatever the 10% cost is gonna come out of the reserve money that we currently have. But put it back to zero and then flagging it, like, you know, what the new cost is and what we might have to do to
Yeah.
put it in. Yes, go ahead.
So part of that costing, Mayor, would we look at, I think what Councillor Palmetier references financing options as well? Is that something that we're gonna consider?
Well, we are for this going to be financing options. This will probably be the provincial financial ones. I don't think any, I agree with what Councillor Fleeler had said earlier, would be neat to go to see if these bridges have a financing option with them, but they're likely going to be higher than the provincial funding. And I think that will be the same with any like, you know, the best rates we're getting right now, like if you go to a bank, it's going to be even higher than what we're getting from the province. So
I'm just wondering if some of these fire companies offer financing options for these trucks. I mean, lifespan of the truck is 20 or 25 years, whatever it is. Even if we did decrease and had to make the payments over 10 years, I'm just saying, yes, there's interest costs, but it's a whole lot better than coughing up $220,000 every year.
And as was mentioned, is they do now offer a 10-year financing option. So if we can pay some of it upfront, that'd be great. And then we're only doing a portion by debt that will then reduce the amount of interest impact. And that's really how we're going to have to start focusing on a lot of things, is what can we pay to reduce the amount that's going to be debt. But it is something we are going to need to look at.
Yeah.
For the rest of
and
it.
if they have a small window to pay back, which is good, because then you're not strapping like 25, 30 years on the payment of the. What about the grader in that regard as well? Do they have a payment plan that you can buy it and over 5 years you pay it back or something?
Through to the mayor, I believe that's what we're doing with our cat grader, or
Mhm.
what we did do was over, was it 4 years, I believe, 5 years? Yeah.
So then that would,
Yeah, through a
again,
loan.
to reduce the actual amount that we have to set aside.
Yeah,
And
so we put it in here with a 3-year finance
Where are you
impact.
on that?
Well, you've skipped down a
Yes,
little
yeah,
bit,
that's
so.
okay. Just tell us the
So it'd
page.
be the very top of the next page is where we got that greater replacement.
Okay,
That price in there is
Okay.
actually with all of the interest as
Okay.
well. And
Okay.
so then you'll see other funding sources. That's the debt for the other 2 years, because we're saying get it over a 3-year loan
Mhm.
or 3-year finance through the company. And we just use the best interest rate information that we had at the time when
Okay.
we drafted this. So it might be different but it's then only a tax impact of 166,000.
Yeah, your worship, I think if we go that route, we need to, each person needs to provide both a cash and a financing option. A lot of these construction companies can't move equipment right now, heading into recessionary times, and they've dropped. I know that we were just looking at something and they dropped the interest rate significantly. Like like,
Because they want to get the product out the
because
door.
they can't move anything,
Okay.
because nobody can
So
afford
this
to
could
buy
be in
anything.
our,
It might work out well, so I think that it should be tendered right with. We wanna know.
Options.
We wanna know
Financial.
your two prices.
Yeah.
If we just pay for it all right now and what you're gonna give us
Mm-hmm.
for an, interest rate, and see how competitive they get.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councilor Fair.
Okay, your worship, to the roads manager, when we look at a grader, I'm not a grader operator, but would we not, would it be an opportunity for us to look at a little more heavy duty grader? I know the roads, like we haven't been getting the rain. When the guys are grading the roads, they're hard. They have to put a lot of water on there. I don't know if a bigger grader would cut down on maintenance costs, or would it be more maintenance costs? I know the parts would probably be more money, but
Through the mayor to Councillor Fleeler. A bigger grader, I believe, just purchased by another northern municipality was closer to about $800,000. So that in itself is kind of a deterrent for me. We'd be looking at a lower size, deer, cat, whatever they come up with. It'd be a 4-wheel drive, nothing fancy, just basic. Like a 9 liter, whatever, nothing huge. But, I believe with the maintenance, it kind of all comes back to, like you said, road conditions. So we water a lot of our roads before we go grade them, or get in before, right after a rainstorm, right? So we're not tearing up our cutting edges as much. So we're very aware of where we need to grade and when we need to grade. So
thank you.
Can I just leave for a minute to get a coffee?
We just
Yep,
take a-
would
we
you
just take a
like a
quick-
Can we take
5-minute
a
break?
quick break? Okay, take a quick break.
Like, why do you keep throwing these out? I really don't like them.
Oh my God, they're so sweet, those ones. Oh.
I'm not sure.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. And what we're going to do is we have our representatives from Aqua who are sitting out there and waiting. So we decided we're going to bring them up right now to walk us through what we've been doing in regards to amendments to the water plant and other different things. So thank you very much for coming, Amber.
Thank you.
And I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you can give us an update of what we've been doing and what we're going to need to do. And
Excellent. So good morning, your worship.
is your mic on?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it's just not close enough. Check, check. Good morning, Deputy Mayor. Good morning, your worship, Deputy Mayor, DeMarsh, councillors and staff. Derek Chapman, the overall responsible operator, and I are here today to provide you with our 2025 capital and major maintenance recommendations for the water and wastewater treatment. As you are aware, we recently drilled a new well for well 1, so I'll move to water first because I believe that's going to be one of the hottest topics. For water, the new well that was drilled, engineering firm, so this is outside of my capital. I'm just stepping out just to keep everyone apprised to the amount. Greer Galloway Group, I believe, is the engineer that will be looking after the hookup of the new drinking water system, and I believe that estimate is in and around $850,000. I'm just bringing.
200.
Through you, Mayor, I did mention 850,000 during the capital submission. It was just in an email. Because it sits outside of Aqua's capital, I have a list of what it will include. So for
So I'm sorry, that's for the hookup?
that's for-
Commissioning only? No media for
Sorry, I'm
nitrates?
yeah, no, I'll go through the whole list, but it's for all of the new well upgrade and at the treatment plant, as far as I understand through Greer Galloway Group. So the facility upgrades that would need to be completed along with the new well is the process rearrangement and configuration, new resin tank, resin, valves, piping, and mechanical. So yes, resin is included. Replacing used media with the new media. And then commissioning of the new well. It's an install a pitless adapter, piping and valves, a new well pump and piping, and mechanical, electrical, and civil work. Both of those are estimated in and around $850,000. That's okay. Sorry. Thank you. I don't have the paper before me.
Yeah, so that would be 650,000 for the new media and the facility adjustments and 200,000 just for the commissioning of the new well. So I was worried when she said new well, 800,050. I was like, oh, we were, okay. But yeah, so it's the sum of these two together.
Perfect. Thank you. So then for Aqua ourselves, just what we need to keep the facility maintained is $64,000. Sorry. 16,000 of that is just to cover compliance and annual maintenance. That is typically the first 7 items that is on the list. In addition to the capital and compliance needs, we've included a water tower inspection to assess the internal coating. It's been 10 years since the tower has been recommended to have an internal coating. This inspection will do camera work. It's a robot that goes in and they'll assess the thickness of the walls and see how much the tower has degraded over the 10-year span. And there is potential that it may not need the internal coating from the technician that's told me. So that's been an estimate for quite some time, I think, since 2016, it's around 650,000. So for $8,000 next year, we could at least get a reassessment of that and come up with a better plan to
Now,
move
it's
forward.
Also brought to my attention that we might, if they see that there's deterioration in certain spots, you can focus just on those spots and you don't.
That's correct. Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So the little robot actually has an arm that can assess that and actually take off some of the descaling that's right then and there. The good news with this $8,000 inspection is that the tower doesn't have to come out of service. It can continue in service.
Ask you my next question. Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So for the next two items, they're both at $15,000. The one is a backup generator at the water tower. There's a lot of really important parts at the water tower, some for the fire department and some for the drinking water system. Backup generator would come in very handy and maintain compliance should we run out of power. There's a distribution analyzer that's at the water tower right now. A distribution analyzer is what calculates the chlorine, that residual throughout the distribution of the entire system. And when the power goes out, we have a mandate from the regulation that we have to continuously monitor and record. We're not capable to do that right now without having a backup generator. We do have a backup UPS that lasts for about 2 to 3 hours, but there is some power failures that go out for a little bit longer than 2 or 3 hours and can cause a problem with us for compliance. So we're suggesting that a backup generator be installed for there. The second item is $15,000 for replacement of the riser pipe in the well 3, the existing well 3. I believe I'm looking back at Derek. 2 years ago, the well failed and the riser pipe is 25 plus years old. It's pitted, it has holes in it. We did have to put it in due to emergency because it is the only well and we didn't have time to get a new well. So the riser pipe that's in there right now is pitted. It's 25 years old and we're actually missing a length because it was so deteriorated. So these are items that will need to be purchased for next year. We did get a quote and it's in around 15,000.
No, Amber, if I may, is this part of the 64 or is this additional to 64?
I'm just, the total is 64 and I'm just speaking into
Okay.
some highlighted items, but I cannot if you prefer.
No,
Okay.
no, please.
So typically our capital list, we put in some wish lists and we put in what we need. This year we didn't do a wish list just because we know that there is so much that's going on, especially with the new well being for engineering. So aside from the items 1 to 7, which are compliance and for annual maintenance, there's only 3 additional things. One is the riser pipe, one is the generator, and one is the inspection for the tower. That's all we're asking for water.
Okay.
So if I can move to wastewater without any questions, go ahead.
So if we built 500 homes, have we got enough water supply there to supply those homes? Do you know?
With the new well, through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, with the new well, I believe you would. Master plan would definitely help with that, but I'm assuming with 2 drinking water supplies, that's something that is feasible. We can look into it for you. But right now with the well 1 that you have that we're not using, it's not. I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
You're in a good state when you get that new well hooked up.
Okay.
No more questions for water?
I just have one, and
Yeah.
there's Greer Galloway. What are we paying them for? Like, what are they? I'm sorry, like what's their involvement in this? And maybe it's a stupid question. I just don't understand. I don't.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm the outside entity of Greer Galloway. I'm just an agency. I'm working for you, not so much Greer Galloway. So maybe Gloria could answer.
Go ahead.
So Greer Galloway was the engineers who were appointed to help us with the work of getting a new media system put in, or media put in to deal with the nitrates to help make sure it doesn't continue to rise, as well as getting in and drilling the new well. So Aqua manages our operations. But they don't necessarily do all the large capital projects unless we specifically ask them to and get them in. This time we went through an engineering company. And And so that's what Greer Galloway is dealing with. They're dealing with just the big, they drilled the new well, or they arranged for the new well to be drilled, and now we'll get it online, and they'll be arranging for the new media to be put into the facility and all of the necessary adjustments to make the media fit, because we don't have.
What's their fee? What's their fee in this total 850K? Do we have that
I
breakdown?
don't know if I have that breakdown. Do you have that? The
Uh,
manager has it.
I have a screenshot from my phone, and it said soft cost, engineering, administration, and contingency is 100,000.
100,000. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Amber, go on. Thank you.
No, please, I'm happy to help. So if I move to the wastewater, again, we have not put a wish list in this year. We've just put items that we do need. First one is the first 1 to 5 items, again, are all annual contingency compliance needs. They're in there every year. They barely change. We've only added one other item, and that's a sludge lagoon survey for the cell 1. If you're not familiar, the cell 1 is the first that brings the raw sewage in. Cell 2 is now the last through, and then you've had the new upgraded lagoon, which is cell 3. So it goes 1, 3, 2. Cell 1 has actually never been cleaned out, and it's, as far as I understand. Sorry, I look back at Derek again. Quite a few, like before you? Okay.
Yeah, I was on council then.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I misinformed there.
That's okay.
So the cell 3 and cell 2 have been cleaned out, and there is a product out on the market that I'm working with another municipality on, where you don't actually have to physically remove the sludge. It's a biological component that you can add to your wastewater treatment system. It actually eats the sludge. It's an enormous cost saver, and it's been proven to work in Alberta. There's for example, there's a lagoon in there right now that's never cleaned out their sludge lagoon in 50 years because of this product. Hauling sludge is
Mhm.
in and around $300,000, $400,000, $450,000. This product's about $40,000 for the first 2 years. So it's just something I want to start trialing for here for Tweed, and then maybe something you want to consider to be part of a preventative maintenance in the future. It will save a lot of money for Tweed down the road should it be successful, but that sludge lagoon survey just puts me in the front door, I guess. I'm working on it, and it's only $4,500 for the survey. The total estimate for the Tweed wastewater is $21,834.
Okay, thank you.
No
Any
questions?
questions? I suppose you're grateful for having that nice break this morning, so that we
I
just
didn't
gave-
really want to follow anything else, so I
Oh,
appreciate
sorry.
me coming in. a bit
Sorry
earlier.
about that. Thank you very much for your patience, and we appreciate you both being here. And
Thank-
also appreciate the great service that we've had. from
Yeah, thank you.
Over the years. Thank
It's
you
been
very
a
much.
pleasure working with Tweed. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day. Well, that's not so bad.
Trying to stay and watch.
So to make sure that we don't miss any projects that are on the initial draft, if we go back to 10.2.1, we can start at the top of the roads
Yes.
and work through the transportation department, and I'll pass it over to the manager to speak to the requested items in here, and I can help with anything.
Sorry, I messed up my pages here. 10.2. If you like to look this up. Can't even find my 10.2, 10.1, 10.7. I don't know what I've done here. Start. I was follow. So We're 10. Yeah, I am. Oh, 10, okay, yeah. Go ahead, please start. I'll just move over.
Through his worship to council, we have a line that's not necessarily going to affect our budget. It's just something to put out there to be aware of. This is strictly based on funding through the Green Municipal Fund we're going to apply through. This is for new lighting on our Tenolite and Public Works and Stoco Public Works shop. We currently utilize fluorescent tube lights. They're my personal opinion is they're more expensive. They don't provide as good a lighting as we need to have. We're going to apply for funding for LED bulbs, convert everything. We have switched over one of our smaller storage buildings at Stoco with some LED lights, and it seems to be working a lot better. But this will have no effect to our budget. We're just putting it out there that we will be applying for it.
Because they've just announced new funding for accelerating community energies. They just announced it today, FCM, so maybe there's something else we can tap into with that one as well. Okay.
Second one, we have our Stoco sand dome repair. That's one we deferred this year due to the cost being a little too much. We received a quote to have it repaired. Well, an estimate for next year. It came in around, I believe it was 18,000. We know that by the time we get to repair it again, it's going to have more shingle loss, more plywood damage, and then just the expected inflation costs with everything. I know shingles are through the roof as well. So we got a budgeted amount for $30,000. This dome has holes in it and is getting water into it. We had to bump up our mix a little bit so it doesn't freeze, but that's one we will be asking for to get repaired.
And the 3-bay pressure washer.
The pressure washer is it's going to be utilized in our Stoco shop. Currently, we only have one pressure washer there. That's to clean all our equipment after a snow event. I know we're looking at ways to save money and keep maintenance costs lower. This is a very good example of a base point to start at. This will give us the capacity to do 3 vehicles at once with hot water as well.
Okay.
Sorry, just a sec. It would take us roughly about 2 hours to clean all of our equipment after a snow event with something like this. And that would also give us the option to take what we have currently up to Actinolite, as we do house vehicles up there in the winter, so they can get washed as well. This is a critical piece of equipment we need to start maintaining our equipment.
Okay. And then we've already done the like the James Street and Clinton Road, Rapids, Queensboro, Rock Elder, Kinlan. Okay, and then we did the plow. Yes, go ahead.
Good, Mayor Gloria. That's all fallen under 310,58,000 on the budget line. It says right now we have as of September 5th, we had 38,488. What do we have left in there now approximately?
That was just sorry, I'll repeat that for those online. I don't have that exact information right now, but I do know we had some more bills come in September and in October for the work that was done on putting the new concrete pad down for the oil tank or the gas tanks, and then the repairs that we did authorize for, I think it was Actinolite and Countryman. We had minor, I think was the other one.
Yeah, 5,000.
So the bill for Countryman came in late September. The bills for Actinolite are starting to come in October, and the concrete pad were all coming in October. So most of that budget has been used now, but I will get you the exact info at the next council meeting.
Okay, and then you have a pickup patrol truck replacement.
Through the mayor, so we're looking to replace per our asset management, our P01 truck. It's our 2014 Dodge. It currently has 288,000 kilometers on it, about 7,200 hours. Its useful life is over at this point. We keep using it. It's going to need brake jobs next year, new tires. It's currently got transmission issues. It's slipping. We use this truck with a slip tank in it as well to go around and fuel our excavators and other equipment when needed. It's something we'll limp by. It's not something we'll likely put on gov deals to get rid of. We're just going to put it right to the ground. There's no point that we won't get anything for it, but that's why we're asking to replace this truck.
And is this something like, you know, that again, dealers, I don't know what dealers are out there now with respect to cars and trucks and whatnot. Is it 0% financing, anything out there, or?
From my personal experience going around, I believe a lot of the dealers are at 0% financing right now. I believe GM is as well.
Okay.
But when we go through the tender process, we'll
Okay.
see what it is
Thank
if we
you.
get that far.
Okay, and then sign reflectivity. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mayor, if we're doing that, can we adjust that line from 70,000 impact fee to whatever the
Well,
payments would be?
so I've put in
I can't see
other-
that from here, so that's
Yes,
why I'm
sorry,
asking.
I've just added in other funding sources of approximately 2/3 of that to assume a 3-year loan.
Mhm.
With no change to interest rates or anything like that. I'll get a better idea when we
Yeah.
go back and look before the next
Yep.
meeting. But yeah, so it's now only a $23,000 tax impact.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sign reflectivity.
Through the mayor, the last time we had an inventory and reflectivity done was in 2016. Just myself going around and looking at a lot of our signs. We have 1,400 in the municipality. That's a lot to maintain. But a lot of ours, when you flash a light on it at night or you're coming up to a sign, and these are a lot of our regulatory signs, there's no reflection back. You can't see it until you're on top of it, which creates a huge hazard for road users at this point. We need to comply with minimum maintenance standards, and I believe, top of my head, 1/3 of our signs are probably not complying at this point.
Okay,
So it's good to get this study done.
then George and James is out. We did Aqua, George and James. New Media we did, Newell we did. Aqua, we're gonna leave that out for now. I think take out the 313,000. Okay, pump track, well,
So with the pump track, that one is dependent on if we can get a funding source. So there's no actual tax impact.
and then the 60,000 is money that's been raised in support of it.
Yes, so that's amounts that we've either set aside in the past budgets that have been sitting into the reserve for this, or our donations, again, that we've received that we set into reserve specifically for this.
Okay, good. Beach sand,
We can't get the approvals to even do that.
how's it gonna stop us? But is that, go ahead, Jay.
Sorry, Mayor, as far as I know, the beach sand right now, we are still working on that. From what Rochelle has told me, it's looking good. We just have to figure out a way to be able to contain the beach sand in a certain spot. So we're just trying to figure out with all the other Stoco Lake and Quinney Conservation to figure out how to do that right now. So as far as the budget for it, it's that's right now, that's what we're looking at for the beach sand. Hopefully we can do less.
The money has not been set, but there's no money in reserve for that.
We did have.
I have to go back. I want to say that one should be partially reserved. We had to use some of the reserved amounts for the engineering costs that we've implemented this year. I'll have to check to see what the exact amount is, but I'm going to put in a rough 15,000 because I can't remember exactly, and I will correct that before the next meeting.
the other thing is, Quinny Conservation had given us a right to do a cut and fill on that particular thing. So we should, like, we had a meeting with them and they had agreed to that, so. We should, like, you know, this is something we want to do at some point. Oh, sorry, you were gonna say something, Councilor Palmetier.
No, it's
Okay,
just about that we did set money
Okay.
aside.
okay. So we'll continue working in that regard. Okay, and the next one is the outdoor stage. This is because it's turning gray or whatever, right? And we want to prevent.
Yes, apparently it was never dealt with right at the very start. So it would be nice to get it stained, and then it
Okay.
would at least look nice and last longer.
Okay, that's also funding that we can see if we can get from Trillium. Okay, so Trillium, and then there's also the Parrot Foundation. We can't lose sight of them and some of these things as well. And then replacement truck. Okay, Jay, go ahead.
Well, this is Rochelle and I have talked about this a little bit. I didn't actually realize it was in this budget, but yeah, the vehicle that I am driving right now it's 25 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it still works, but it would be we are short vehicles for Parks and Recreation as it is.
Okay, so then is this something when we go out looking for a truck, we can do a double tender? Like package it together and see if we can get a better deal or whatever?
If we could get a better deal, that'd be fantastic, yeah.
Just that again is looking at doing it as a 3-year loan. So that other funding source is the 2 years portion of the debt. So it means you only actually tax impact it a portion each year for 3 years.
Okay,
Mayor, I can ask one question.
yeah, go ahead.
Gloria, I look at the beach sand line, it's 58,050. And then for previous budgets, it's called, you know, something else, Parks Land Improvements. Why does the name of the line change?
So we use one GL account line for anything that is land improvements. So it has the pump track in there. If we were doing retaining wall at the park, which would have been 2024, it would include anytime we have to upgrade playground equipment, anything that would be considered land improvements. This is separated so that way when we go to put it into our tangible capital assets for audit, we already have them coded to the correct type of asset. So that's why in here it's detailed out, but you'll actually, if you look at the top of the rec area, you'll see the same account numbers used for the pump track as well as the beach sand, because both of them go into the same GL account.
So if
and
you
it's
go to
just
the
called-
GL, put in that number, all those sub accounts will come up underneath it?
There's no sub account.
Or
It's just
whatever?
Excel. Yeah.
Okay, that's why I'm just having trouble.
Okay, and then tree removal and replanting, are we done with that?
For the tree planting, yes. Now, tree removal, we do still have some trees around the municipality that need to be brought down
On our property?
on our property, yes.
Okay, can you report back to us like what we're looking at and how many trees? Like, you know, not anytime soon, but just to give us an update of what we're looking at and where.
Yep, that would be
Okay.
not a problem at all.
Okay, and decorations, 5,000,
Here come the reserves. That's-
And decorations, that's basically just for the like Christmas decorations and any events that we end up doing.
okay. Okay, good enough.
So the next section is the standard 3,000 that we put
Right.
aside for our 4 hamlet facilities and any capital renovations that they may require during the year. So if there's not gonna be any change to that, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time because it's
No.
been the same for many years.
Yeah.
Now we'll get down into the arena section.
Well, what about the Hamlet expenditures though?
So this is just the capital. The community requests will be at the operating day for the extra items that they're
That's-
asking for.
But is that not a capital expenditure?
Yes, I hadn't put it into the agenda, that section, because I forgot it wasn't in this piece. It was in the request area.
Well, maybe we can go take a look at that because it is capital. Okay, so you can direct us to that after. Okay, so continuing. Emergency exits, install new code compliant stairs and guards based on biannual assessment report includes engineering. What are we talking about here?
So we had Quinny Engineering in to go through the arena. And they said that we need to replace our exits because they don't comply to standards now. Which,
I think a few years ago, didn't we move the doors? Because the doors swung the wrong way at one point.
no, we had to put bollards out in front so that nobody would run into the stairs.
And there was, I think, if I remember right, Jim, maybe you remember, is when the doors would swing the wrong way for the emergency. I remember we did something with that too, to bring them up to
Yeah,
code.
we did.
Yeah,
My son and I fixed that.
yeah.
That was before me.
There, yeah. It did, it swung the wrong way.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't open the door.
So install new code compliant stairs,
Outside,
outside stairs.
yes.
Wall steel stairs,
Uh-huh,
wrong one, fine.
really?
You know why? Right, too steep or something?
I'm not
Risers?
I'm not exactly sure why they don't comply. I would have to go through my sheets that I have at the arena, but I do not have them with me.
Okay. Okay. And then the compressor, this is in regards to the arena again.
Yeah, after so many running hours, they reseal all the gaskets just to keep it preventive maintenance.
No problem. And so then the invent chairs, okay.
And then the event chairs is just to replace any of the ones that we shouldn't have, so you don't get slivers.
Your worship, if I may step back to the compressor,
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
through your worship, the. Seen on Facebook, Marmara's run into a big issue with their arena. And it sounds like it was kind of a maintenance issue in their. I don't know if it was in their compressor or what it was in, but I'm just wanting to make sure it's better now to spend a little bit of money than to have that, because it sounds like they might not have an arena going forward if they can't.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good for them.
So this is in regards to the, this is in addition to the personnel problem they had?
Yes.
Yes.
So, and it's, I believe it said online, it was $250,000. And am I mistaken? Or it was a lot of money.
I'm, to be quite honest, I'm not sure about the money. But it was just, apparently it's just been neglected for a
Mhm.
few years, and when they started up, didn't look good. Everything went bad.
Oh,
So I just want to make sure that we as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
council haven't pushed something off that you're
No.
seeing, and then we end up in a situation where we can't afford to fix
Right.
it.
No,
Perfectly.
as of right now, everything is running well. It's just preventive maintenance after so many hours.
Mhm.
This is what they do with the new compressors.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councillor Valiquette.
So just to build on that, and Councillor Palmetier is 100% right. There's no preventative maintenance schedule. All you're gonna do is run into problems down the
totally.
road,
Yeah.
costly problems. And not just at the arena, but everything that we have
Mhm.
here or at the Public Works
Yeah.
garage, our vehicle. If you
Bridges.
don't do it at bridges, it catches up with you.
Yeah. No, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize that they ran into even additional problems.
Yeah, it just kind of, as someone like I'm a user as well as just being here with council and knowing our budget restrictions, I just couldn't imagine being in their shoes right
Oh my
now,
God.
dealing with that at their budget time. And I thought, if we push something off that was $8,000-10,000
Oh, yeah.
that could help expand the life, I just wanted to know, because I know we've made a lot of cuts that aren't even coming to us because of the situation we're in. So I just wanted to be sure.
Well, you make sure though, let's make sure that when we get back and we're finally reviewing again and we say, well, this has got to go, this has got to go. We don't let that go. Okay, thank you. Flower replacement.
So from discussions with the manager of Community Development Parks and Rec, one of our flowers on the splash pad, one of the ones that
Oh.
spoots out the water, needs to be replaced. So it's not like a flower that you plant in the ground. That's why it's $7,500. It's one of those ones where the water flows up through it and comes out. So we do have one of them that needs replacement in order to keep that piece of it functional.
Okay.
Is there any fundraising avenues or no?
Yeah, well,
Like
that-
any of those parrot or I don't know how they. work.
Yeah, I think what we should entertain doing is putting together a package of the things that we need funded, but we should.
Would you
try-
like me to put in other funding, other grant?
I would,
for
I
here,
would
or-
say so, yes. And then we want it fixed because our splash pad is a big draw. Yeah. But like looking to find funding for that.
Now,
So next time, know what your flowers.
I was thinking flowers.
Me too.
with the pool liner, this is actually a reserve transfer. So if we're pulling it out right now, I'm gonna put the 62,000 to zero, but it is something. We were looking at needing to put 62,000 aside
Yeah.
every year for the next so many years to go on to what we already have in reserves to help fund that pool liner replacement. But we can add it back, but right now, with all the other departments, you'd said pull them out
Yeah.
except for, I think it was water, sewer and the waste because of the bag tags.
So in regards to the pool heater, have we decided, are we doing gas or?
Yes, I believe that it was going to be natural gas heated. That it would be required to have a minimum of 50% of fundraising before proceeding, is what the manager had told me. I don't know if there's additional information you may have on that. We do have some donations already on hand for it.
I don't have any additional information. Yeah.
Because Enbridge will fund this as well. Okay, so we should reach out to Enbridge.
Okay, for the other 12%
Yeah,
or 12,000 or?
ask- Yeah, that's right. Ask them what they will do to support this. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Fair and Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Your worship, would the hydro, funding, would
Oh,
be
the
able
sports
to
one?
apply that, to that, or not?
Well, that's.
Is
usually
more
tip-
community stuff?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Okay.
That is, that's, no, I mean, no, you're right. That's something we should look at. That's the sports one. The other one is Canadian Tire. And then there's another one, it's the Blue Jays. They all have foundations that fund sports related things. The hydro one is, I can't remember what it's called. Does anybody remember what that's? Power play, that's it. Yes, so these are all things that we should look at for the pump track, for this, for the flower. These are things that we should be able to, we should consider tapping into. I know that, well, sometimes these applications aren't nearly as bad as the ones that we have to do for major infrastructure projects. Yes. Okay, go ahead and then to,
Well, just to keep things current with, the hydro. The, Bell Canada, is Bell Canada got a fund as well?
I don't know, we
I
should
thought
check.
They did, I thought they did.
Running out of-
Cindy would be doing this, yes. Well, Cindy and Rochelle, yes. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Gloria, what do we have in our reserves for that liner right now?
For the
For
pool
the pool
liner,
liner.
just a second.
I think that pool liner was like 300,000.
Oh, it's expensive.
Yeah, so right now we have 100, just less than 176,000. So the concept was if we put 67 away in 25, 67 away in 26, we would have 310,000 approximately. Plus then for 27, plus whatever the remaining difference would have been tax impacted.
We
at
should
that
also
point.
look at putting all that, the rest of the pool liner in as part of these applications that we're doing.
Just one additional question to the public works supervisor. Do you have any idea how much life is left in that liner?
Well, the liner actually, the life expectancy is already over it. But the way things are going, it looks pretty good. I'm hoping we can get like another 2 years out of it.
Okay,
Fingers crossed.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see how things go this year, but fingers crossed, I would like 2 years.
Okay.
So could we take that 62 out and try to get the funding for it? Is that what the plan is?
That's what I would like to see. That's what I,
Yeah, okay.
okay. Next, pool vacuum. So how are we, the one we have is on Slash Lakes?
So the vacuum we have right now is a manual vacuum.
Oh, okay.
This would be a robotic
Yeah.
vacuum for industrial. And it will save us time and labor. So I'll be able to throw it in the morning and take it out before anybody gets there, and we can vacuum it every day opposed to trying to pull staff off to vacuum it every day.
So when YMCA is there, they don't undertake to vacuum it for you?
They do vacuum. This is more like before they even get there, because once there's people in there, you don't have to vacuum it a whole lot. It's like once a week. And when I go in and check, I gotta check that every morning anyway, so you could throw it in for an hour and it would have the pool clean before anybody even gets there. So it's just, it would, and it will help the liner as well, because the liner would be clean right off the hop opposed to weeks of trying to get it clean vacuuming.
Okay. And then the pool heater we discussed. Hydrant painting. Well, we'll just leave that in. That's something that we've been doing for a number of years, and it is a major
And-
tourist draw.
Yeah, and it's been tax funded for at least a couple decades, so there's no impact to the tax rate, keeping it at the 4,000.
And is that it?
So that would be all of the ones on this capital page. So
Okay.
just to show the new reflected total tax impacted,
Okay,
in case you can't see that,
I
let me
can't-
zoom
I
in
can't see
here.
it.
So it's now sitting at 452,618.33. As opposed to the 1.3 million.
say
we
it again,
started
how
off.
much?
452,618.33.
Okay, terrific.
Now, as requested, if we're wanting to look at the ones from the community centers,
Yeah.
they are back in section 1 and
I would like to.
1.8.
Okay. Sorry, okay, just may get this all back together. Oh, I'll do it later. Okay, which section are we going to?
So it's 1.8.1.
So we all the way
So
up to one?
section 1 and
Okay.
then
Section 1. Okay. Section 1, 1.8. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the first one that we received was from the Actinolite Hall Committee, where it was asked for us to look at putting in parking lot line painting. Which after speaking with the manager of Public Works, he feels that we might be able to build it in and have it done the same time we do road painting next year.
Okay.
So it may not be a specific additional cost, if we can still get that arranged.
Okay.
They would also like to replace their floors, as some are cracked, some have shown a lot of wear and tear. They provided us some quote estimates of what it would be looking at. It's about $11,500. And they also would like to see their air conditioner replaced, which is about another $4,100 per the quotes that they've received. So that's a total of just less than 16,000. The annual contribution that we would typically put in is the 3,000 that we talked about before. And they have an expected reserve balance of about 7,700. So that would mean 5,000 of it would not be funded. So did we want to ask them to wait one more year or 2 more years, or did we want to put in additional 5,000?
I think the other thing we can do, though, we could entertain if we want to, we don't have to make that decision right now, is, okay, 2026, we take the 3,000 that they would have got from that year and put it into this as well. So we sort of take the money they would have had, like, you know, and we're sort of borrowing from ourselves, but borrowing
Yeah.
from their future.
And we
accounts.
have done that for, I believe it was Thomasburg.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was beautification or the hall committee, where we allowed them to go into a negative and they had to replace that before they were allowed to do anything else going forward. So that we have a,
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think we could, yes, please go ahead, Councillor Valley.
So what about not doing the air conditioner, send somebody in to service it, make sure it's good for the next year and just push it off. Unless it's failing, I don't see what the issue is, other than maybe efficiency.
I think it's in total failure. I would suggest the other way around, do the air conditioner this year and push off the floor. But I don't know, either or, I mean,
Or we take the
Or
3,000
you
and
give them 6,000 and
Yeah.
they can spend it where they think it
Yeah.
needs to be spent, but they don't get.
3,000
money
next year.
year.
Yeah,
And then it's up to them and how they wanna. As a
I'm good with that,
committee,
yeah. Anyway, go ahead, Counselor.
That would reflect on the tax increase, so if we do that too.
But it gives us a break next year.
Yeah, but what about this year?
Yeah, well. Next year. We're gonna be just as bad as we are this year. And the thing is, this is just a proposal at this point, okay? Okay, what's this tenants of Hungerford Hall office?
So there has been a request for a, so this is not the hall,
This
it's the
is-
office side.
Where the accountant is,
Yes.
40,000 to put in a ramp there.
So that is based off of the estimate for getting fully engineered because we're a commercial facility. We do require engineered drawings to put in a ramp. This is our best guess. We might get it cheaper, but I can't guarantee because when we had to do the stairs out here for our emergency exit, those plus the big ramp on the hall side of Hungerford Hall was a total of 70,000 for just those small stairs and that ramp.
Go ahead.
your worship, I think something like precast, concrete ramp, they're pre-engineered. Would probably be feasible. They're like somebody, the only one that I know off by heart is Stubbies. They're out of Woodstock, but they're like, I know that there's the place in Belleville does some. I don't know if they do the precast there or if they buy it in near Walmart in the back street. But it might be, they usually come pre-engineered. It might be something that could suffice or be affordable.
Yeah,
'cause
we
that's
can
not affordable.
research that.
Well, do,
Before
because
the
I
next
mean,
one.
like, you know, I'm just looking at that building, like, you know, I see, like, just think that's gonna cost 40,000 to put in a ramp is like absolutely ridiculous. So look at the, yes, please go ahead.
Is there another entrance in that building that would be suitable for alternate access for somebody? who needs-
The accountant's office area has two entrances, one in the parking lot, which is stairs, and one out the front, which is stairs,
Okay, thank you.
unfortunately.
Okay. So let's look at that, okay? Let's get precast. And if we're looking, see, this is the other thing. I don't know if it's in here. The Kiwanis, the ramp for the pavilion.
Yeah, so that is.
That is in here? Okay, just wear it, leave it for now.
there,
Yes.
there was an accessibility funding stream somewhere, I can't remember.
Yeah.
We used that
They-
for the arena, I think, and stuff.
Yeah, so sometimes they open it up every other year and sometimes they put in the requirements that if you took it within the last 5 years, you don't get to apply this time. We should be at the point that when one comes up again that we can apply. We did use some accessibility funding for, I forget which facility it was, but we did use one in 2019. So the 5-year limit now for 25 going forward means we're open up again to it, but there was something we did use in 2019. I can't
Mayor,
remember what it
just to
was.
follow up. That really isn't a public building, what they're using for that accounting office. Is that something that we could encourage them to apply for? Because they might be more eligible than we would be?
Normally it doesn't apply to
Yeah, businesses.
Okay,
for-profit
I didn't know. Okay,
businesses.
thanks.
And I don't know an accounting firm that's nonprofit. So the next was a request from Queensborough Hall for some work done on their bell tower and attic repairs. The best estimate based off of what was requested, where hopefully it'd be a lot cheaper, that maybe there's not as much work as what they're saying it needs to be done, but our best guess was 20,000. And the annual contribution amount we have is 3,000 and there's no reserves for them at this time.
Yeah, like, I mean, we've put so much money into that hall, my God. Is it something that, you know, like, you know, say, for example, this is up in the bell tower, can you put plastic to stop the elements from getting in or the birds from getting in or something temporarily until, or board it up or do something temporarily until we can figure out what we're gonna do, because I mean, I don't even know, have they given up Marlbank on their canteen?
So I believe
Bank was still wanting to proceed with their canteen, but they know it was gonna be a little bit before we'd have enough funding, so they were wanting to make this one at least operational. As there was a lot of work that did require to be done. But I don't think they've completely given up on the full structure.
So then, when I was alluding to a couple of council meetings ago about the work that Christine has done and the fundraising they've done and everything, is to just revamp the existing one and bringing it up to speed.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I
From
want
my
to
understanding.
emphasize too, I've asked us to set up a charitable account, so to speak, with funds being able to be made to that account to be able to help them with their
Yes.
we might even, and maybe in Queensborough, we could do the same thing. Set up anybody who would like to make a donation and then get a charitable receipt. We could start building up funds for those. For some of these extra activities. Because we just don't have the money. I mean, and again, we don't want to see some of these buildings deteriorate any further, because then it's going to cost, like, it's preventative. But if we can
Yeah.
find temporary preventative solutions to buy us some time, like, boarding up or putting in plastic or whatever, let's pursue that.
Okay.
Okay, next, so Kiwanis is not in here then either.
So I have a couple more that I need to add, but I don't have them ready to hand out to all of council.
Okay.
Um,
I think anything in regards to, supporting Tweed and Co. or supporting Casey, if he ever had something in here, I just don't think that's something we can do again this year, unfortunately. Agreed? Okay. So 2024 council budget deferral, Stokoe Lake Ball Diamond to address Joel Wright.
yeah, so last year it was deferred out, but that culvert had rotted out, I believe, in the middle. The park supervisor might have some better information of exactly what parts of that culvert and Stokoe
And we
Ball
did
Diamond.
something temporary there, didn't we?
So as of right now, we've, it looks like the pipes just rotted out where. So what we've done so far is we've just put some steel over top of it and put some sandbags and topsoil just to make it so nobody falls in. That's what we've done so far.
Yes, go ahead, Councilor.
Your worship, might be a question for our roads manager, but, or road super, either one. The plastic pipe, there's no traffic over that area. I don't know, even on roads, would the plastic pipe be a better opportunity because they don't rust? I don't know.
In certain spots, they are definitely 100% better, but you gotta have cover over top of them.
Yep.
Or else they end up lifting up to
So what, in this case, what,
over the ball diamond. I gave you guys a quote last year on that there, and I think it was. Don't mark my numbers, but I think it was around $12,000 to do
Okay.
that there with a 16-inch 400 mil pipe. And I believe it was 10 sections, 9-meter pipe.
okay,
So is that
And I
plastic
think
pipe?
It was actually, we had that set up that we would do it this summer. What it was last year.
okay.
And that's plastic?
Yes, and that was
Okay.
plastic, because there's no point of putting the metal back in there, because 15 years, 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's 12K, so we knocked that down to 12K then.
Don't mark my words on that.
Oh, yes, we are, it's coming out of your pay.
Sitting right in front of me.
Okay, yes,
So
Councilor
my
Valiquette.
understanding how long that
Yeah.
whole piece is that we're talking about replacing, with one piece that's collapsed. Would we be able to just excavate around that, cut that piece out, put in 8, 7 to 10 feet of pipe? And Bob your uncle?
You can do that, Peter, or Councilor Valiquette, but the problem is 2 years down the road or a year down the road, you could be doing, splicing that pipe together all the way through there.
That'll be on the next council.
Yeah, but it's gonna be a pain to do that. Like when you dig that up, you wanna dig it up and then sod it back down and then you're done with it.
Okay, thank you.
Plastic pipe,
Thank you.
you'll never have to touch it, yeah.
Councilor Palmetier.
Through your worship, like how deep in the ground is this? Is it just below the surface?
Jay, you might know better. I haven't dug it up, so I would say it's just below the surface, like a foot or something below it.
Yeah, there's about a foot of, maybe a foot on top of it, and then it's, yeah. So it'd be what, but it'd be about 3 feet
Yeah. you
by the
could
time
put
it's at the bottom.
16-inch pipe and then a foot on top of that there. So
Yeah.
30 inches of feet.
Any other questions? Okay, is there anything else, Gloria?
So the only other part that I like to remind the public, as council has already seen a lot of this information, but is going to section 10.5.
Okay, one moment.
Where it's looking at the past items that we've purchased or completed where the funding source was coming from future tax numbers. So we refer to this as unfunded capital.
Sorry, that was 10.5?
Yes.
Oh, that's over here. I didn't get these organized.
Yeah. So in 2024, we chose to only do the water and the water pieces, but there is the 2-ton truck, the remaining amount of that we still have to start paying off. And so this was the plan that was reviewed last year. We can speed it up, but this is how it's been reflected right now, where it would be all paid off by 2029. So almost 61,000 of the 2025 budget is paying off. Again, internal debt is another way to look at this. This is our internal debt.
Yeah, okay.
We have a similar type thing on the next page at 10.6, where we specifically borrowed from our bag tag reserve fund.
Mhm.
So in 2025, we have the final 2 payments on the 2 road ones that were pulled from there. And so those ones will be done.
Mhm.
And which helps offset that in 2026, we need to start paying back the second loan to help offset the use of the working fund capital that over 3 years, and then we had to build that tax increase over
Right.
2 year with 2 loans. So in 2025, our budget includes 246,000 of paying back the bag tag reserve fund. And in 26, it'll be 275,000, and that's with the interest in
Oh,
added
okay,
in.
yeah. Okay,
And under legislation, I am required to report this if we discuss if we discuss debt as any potential funding sources. I am required on 10.7 to disclose the debt service obligation levels that we are sitting at. So right now, you'll notice that the interest rates for the newest one have not been reduced as I left this as it was in September. Obviously, those rates have gone down again, but I didn't want to change the pages that you had received until
Mhm.
after today. So with those plus our internal debt amounts that we have to pay, we are looking at that with our debt management policy where we restrict it to 15% of the operating revenues, we can take on additional annual debt payments of about $1 million. You obviously don't necessarily want to max that out all at once, because then that commits
did you
1
say
point,
1 million or 1.4 million?
it'll be 1,019,700
Yeah, I have.
Oh, because I've been changing numbers in this sheet. So now this has already been adjusted
Okay.
here. Sorry. So yes, this had set at 1.4.
Right,
As we've been making changes and changing what's coming from debt and what's not coming from debt, it's changing
so
my numbers.
we have 1 million, what did you say?
So 1,019,721.
Okay, and that's based because we've made changes earlier in our
Yeah,
discussions.
and once I fix everything and get everything in, I'll have the exact number for you, but based off of the 1.4 that it was before when I handed it out, these, with the interest rates that existed in September,
Right,
these, if we did a 5-year loan, it was 6.4 million. We could take on, if it was a 10-year, it would be 11.5 million, and so forth and so forth. Again, you don't necessarily want to commit yourselves all in 1 year to this much debt, because that basically means you're setting aside 1.4 million plus the 300,000
Oh, yeah.
we're already doing
Yeah.
every year.
just to debt before you get to do anything else. But I am required to show that anytime that debt is discussed under legislation.
I do think it's interesting when you look at the household debt that you have on the next page. How. Well, in 2025, that might change.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and when
Look
you
at
are
Center
looking at,
Hastings, though.
yeah, Center Hastings, Bancroft, Marmor and Sterling are all 2022 because their FIRs had not yet been
Okay.
posted. And I know some of these did take out debt in
Okay.
23,
Yes, they
but
did.
unfortunately I don't have that information yet.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully I'll have it to provide
Yeah.
a proper number when we go to do our final presentation.
Yeah, yeah.
Is just most correct.
Yes,
Yeah, but
Okay.
ours has changed a lot since 2022 as well.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I saw that too and went, oh my
What the
goodness.
heck? Yeah.
I think Center Hastings will still be low
Yeah,
because they had a
Center-
high tax rate.
They
20
have high
years ago.
tax rate and they had a lot of reserves, so I don't think they have a lot of debt.
No, they had,
Um,
they've been taxed the highest for the long time. a long
Yeah,
time. And
but
Bancroft is definitely because they had to incur a lot of debt when they
From
had
the
to do that
water.
water perspective.
yes. I know Sterling definitely took on debt this last
Okay.
year for their projects for 23 and 24.
Mhm.
I believe Marmor did, but I'm not
Yeah,
positive
Marmor
there.
is in bad shape too. Okay, good.
So that's all that I have to specifically discuss for the capital. I will make sure that everything is reflected properly and provide you the updated copies and get an updated version of the draft budget available for as our next meeting is November 12th for operating budget.
Okay. Any questions, anybody? And our next meeting is, what date was that? Oh,
November-
it's just after council, eh?
Yeah, so it's at 1 o'clock on November 12th. So regular councils in the morning and then we will have the
Okay.
budget
And
in
that's
the
operating
afternoon.
budget.
Yes.
Okay. Great, thank you very much, gang. Oh, sorry, I gotta do this again. No. I got tipped out. Okay, could I have a move and a seconder to adjourn today's meeting, please? Thank you, Councillor Fleeler. Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeMarsh. All in favor? Thank you.